Let's be honest. Have you ever been watching a ministry online, or maybe even sitting in a church service, and suddenly the message of grace takes a hard turn into a request for cash? It's a tension a lot of us feel, right? That blurry line between ministry and money.
And it all boils down to this one question, doesn't it? When does that spiritual mission to serve and to share a message start to feel, well, more like a business model? It's that uncomfortable shift we've all sensed at one time or another. And you've probably heard these terms floating around: seed faith, pay to pray, the whole prosperity gospel movement. These ideas are right at the heart of this debate, and they really make you wonder, is this about faith or is it about finance?
But here's the kicker. You might think this is a modern problem, a product of televangelism or the internet, but it's not. The warnings about this stuff are ancient. We're talking nearly 2,000 years old. So let's jump in the time machine and go back to the very beginning.
First up, we're going to look at the exact words the earliest Christian leaders used to warn people about mixing faith and for-profit business. And trust me, the words they chose, they pack a punch. The Apostle Paul, for instance, he reached for this very specific Greek word, kopaleo. Now, this doesn't just mean to sell. No. This word conjures up the image of a shady huckster at a street market, a peddler who's known for cutting corners to make a quick buck. That's the vibe he was going for.
And here's the perfect illustration of what that meant. A kapelos was the kind of merchant who would take good, pure wine and secretly add water to it. Why? To stretch the product, sell more, and make more money. It's a powerful analogy, right? When profit becomes the primary motive, the message itself is in danger of being diluted, of being watered down.
And here it is, right there in the text. When Paul says, we do not peddle the word of God, that's the word he uses, kopaleo. He's drawing a massive, unmissable line in the sand between speaking with sincerity and hawking the message for personal gain.
Okay, so they had this strong warning, but how did the early church actually enforce it? How did they put it into practice? Well, they didn't just hope for the best. They came up with a surprisingly simple, but really direct litmus test.
We find this test in a fascinating little document called the Didache. That just means the teaching. Think of it like an early church playbook from the 1st or 2nd century. It gives us this incredible window into how they operated, and it had some very clear rules for any traveling teachers who showed up. And the test they used was just so practical. A real teacher comes to town? Awesome. You're welcome for a day, maybe 2. But if they tried to hang around for a 3rd day, that was a major red flag. And here was the final critical step. If, when they were about to leave, they asked for money for themselves, the verdict was instant. They even had a name for a person like that, a Christum poros. It literally means a Christ peddler or a Christ traitor. I mean, they did not mince words. For the early church, the motivation had to be pure. The moment you put a price tag on the gospel, you are fundamentally breaking it.
Now, this might all sound a little harsh. You might be thinking, hold on, does this mean ministers shouldn't be supported at all? And that's a fair question. But the Bible makes a really important distinction here. It's not about if someone is supported, it's about the motive and the method. And the difference really comes down to these two concepts. On one hand, you have misthos. Think of this as legitimate support, fair wages. The Bible is super clear. The laborer is worthy of his wages. It's about taking care of people doing the work. But that is a world away from the other idea, aishrakartes. This is shameful gain or filthy lucre. This isn't about meeting a need. It's about feeding greed by exploiting your spiritual position for wealth. This whole idea of profiting from the sacred is taken so seriously it actually got its own name, Simony. And it's named after a guy from the book of Acts, Simon the magician, who saw the apostles performing miracles and basically tried to write them a check to buy that power for himself. In Peter's response, wow, it was not a gentle course correction. It was a searing rebuke. It just goes to show how seriously they took this. Trying to turn the free gift of God into a transaction, it was seen as a profound betrayal. Okay, so we've looked at the ancient warnings and the early church's playbook. But how do we take all of this 2,000-year-old wisdom and apply it to our world today? Well, the core principles point us toward a kind of modern transparency test. Think of this as a simple toolkit for discernment based on everything we've been talking about. It really comes down to 4 key questions we can ask anytime we're evaluating a ministry's financial practices. So the first 2 questions are all about structure and access. 1.
Is there real, independent accountability? Is there a board overseeing the money that isn't just the leader's family and friends? And 2, is the free gift actually free? Is the core message available to everyone, or is all the good stuff hiding behind a paywall or a subscription? And the last 2 questions really get to the heart of the matter. What's the motive? Is the appeal to give based on a free will response to God's grace, or does it use high-pressure sales tactics and fear? And finally, is the lifestyle proportionate? Does the leader's life reflect one of service, or does it look a lot more like that shameful gain we were talking about earlier? When you really think about it, the gospel is this unique thing. It's maybe the only product in the entire world that loses all of its value the second you try to sell it. Its very essence, its power, is tied to the fact that it is a completely free gift. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. If this gift truly has no price, what is our role in protecting it? How do we ensure it remains a free-flowing gift for everyone, not something that gets dammed up by profit motives or high-pressure tactics? It's something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for watching. Visit our website, www.christthelivingtruth.com, to learn more.